Okay, so welcome to today's presentation, and we'll be covering BSBWOR501B, Manage Personal Work Priorities and Professional Development, focusing today on Part 1, which is Establish Personal Work Goals. As you'll be aware, the BSBWOR501B, Manage Personal Work Priorities and Professional Development, consists of 3 core sections. The first one, as I said, we're doing today, which is Establish Personal Work Priorities. And the second one is for setting and meeting own work priorities. And the third is Develop and Maintain Professional Competence. And like I said, we're going to focus today on establishing personal work priorities. Okay. We all compare ourselves to individuals in our peer group or people we know, especially if the occupied role we aspire to hold. That could be a sports person you aspire to emulate, or somebody you work with. Maybe you've got a work colleague who's particularly good at something at work or does something really well, your boss, or even your parents' parenting skills. There will always be somebody that we look to be like, to emulate. In essence, these are all the same. These individuals demonstrate values or knowledge or competencies we aspire to have. In a work situation, we would call these people role models. And what we're talking about at the moment maybe is some role model characteristics you could consider when looking at people as role models. In work situations, if you like to understand legislation, organisational policies, they're likely to be very well managed in terms of their time and achieving goals. I suspect they're good communicators, effective negotiators. You'll think of them as being fair and impartial, maybe consistent in their behaviour. They treat you all equally. We always talk about customer focus because generally we all work in a situation where we've all got somebody as a customer. And competent. They've got to be good at what they do. They've got to be good at the job. You don't look at people who aren't good at the job that you want to do. Now that's going to contribute to your work on activity 1, which asks you what characteristics you believe a positive role model in the workplace should demonstrate. And maybe when you're thinking about that, let's go back to, sorry. What do you think makes you an effective leader? Well, like I said before, you may be thinking about a sports star, you may be thinking about somebody from school, you might be thinking about an employer or your parents. Martin Luther King, Mahatma Gandhi, all those names come up in there. Tony Abbott. So if you think about an effective leader, they like to have most of, not many of these attributes. Uncompromising integrity, a lot of energy. They're tend to be people who are good at working priorities. They're committed, hardworking, can be creative. I think we said this in the earlier slide. You look at people who are going to be goal-orientated. They get things done. They have an ability to inspire and create enthusiasm in other people, whilst at the same time, we're all about them get upset, remain level-headed. People who work well in a crisis, good leaders. You don't want the ship sinking and the captain jump on the ship first, do you? People who are level-headed make effective leaders. And of course, having a desire to help others grow. A good leader is somebody who invests his time and energy in the people he's working with to help them to grow. When you think of those characteristics, I'm sure people pop to mind you may know of who display those characteristics you look up to, which will be really useful because your question 2 in activity 1 would ask you to describe the person you've looked up to as a positive role model and describe the qualities you admire about them. What made them a role model? What did you learn from them? So think of somebody you know. And in terms of these qualities maybe, what makes that person somebody you look up to? And of course there's a question there also about can a person be a positive role model if they're fully organised and don't operate effectively? I'd hope somewhere in there you're thinking the answer would be no, because you're not going to be looking for people, I would hope, who aren't very good at what they do. We're looking for people who we aspire to be like. And if you get as far as your written knowledge, you'll find a question 2 there. Try to identify and describe 5 traits of an effective leader. Here we've got 10, so you've only got to find 5 of them. Slowly we're going back and forth. When you're talking about developing your own personal work goals, the important thing with it when you work in the organisation or working in the business is to align your goals with the organisation's. It's all about pulling in the same direction, isn't it? There's not much sense in you being in work, to use the phrase, doing your own thing, if your own thing is not going to contribute to the organisation achieving its own goals, its own sales targets. You know, let's just talk in the simplest possible terms. You know, you're working in a business, and the objective of the business is to make money, to create sales. If you're working in that business and your actions are counterproductive to creating sales, then obviously your personal goals are not aligned with the organisation. So when you're working with an organisation, you need to understand what the company's vision is. And the vision may be as simple as, this is our budget, these are the sales we're looking to achieve, these are the kind of customers we want to interact with. It can be that simple. In some way, shape or form, you have to share your organisation's values. You literally can't work for a company if you don't appreciate, respect the values they represent as a business. If you think they're unethical, if you think they are not a good company to work for, then why would you want to work for them? Will you give your best to a company that you don't respect? You need to understand the strategic and operational plans of this business, by which we mean you need to know where this company's going and how it plans to get there and what your role is in that company getting where it wants to go. And of course, we have this issue of work-life balance, but we can talk about it a bit later on. Now, activity 2 asks you to how do you ensure your personal work goals reflect the organisation's plans and your own responsibilities. Okay, so if you're asking that question based on this idea of aligning your personal goals with the organisation, well, how do you know what the organisation plans are? Well, someone's got to share them with you. Now, in an employment situation, that's likely to be because they've shown you a job description. You might have some things called KPIs, key performance indicators, basically goals. We're going to talk about that a bit later on. It may just literally be informal feedback from the people you're working with and for, who sit down in weekly meetings and tell you what the organisation is planning to achieve and what your role is. You know, the deadlines you're working to, whether it be deliveries or getting something ready on time. All those things that contribute to effectively helping an organisation reach its goals. But you'll generally know the key ingredient here is going to be a job description. And question 2 asks you to look at a situation where you've got a team member who is not performing correctly, who may be not working in the right direction as the team. What are you going to do about it? Well, again, think about it. If you're working with somebody who's not doing their job properly or not putting their energy in the right direction, it's likely to be because they don't know what direction they need to be pulling in. So your job is to make sure this person knows where the company's going. So you're going to introduce them to the job description. You're going to introduce them to their KPIs, their key performance indicators. You're going to introduce them to what the company operational plans are and the budgets and the deadlines you're working to and how their role should contribute to achieving those deadlines. I want to talk about the balanced scorecard model because it is one of the questions you get to answer in your assessment. So the balanced scorecard model uses a 4 perspective approach to identify what measures to use to track the implementation of a strategy. So these are basically performance measurements for individuals create themselves within their job so they can see if they've done the job properly, to the right standard and the right timescale. Okay? The original 4 perspectives which were proposed as part of the balanced scorecard were, well, the first one was finance, okay? which encourages identification of a few relevant high-level financial measures. So we've been encouraged to choose measures that help to inform and answer the question, how do we look to our shareholders, to our investors? The kind of information would be cash flows, sales growth, operational income, returns on investment. I mean, those are the sort of things that the investors are going to be looking to learn. The other perspective on the balanced scorecard is the customer. So you're encouraged to identify the measures that answer the question, how do customers see us? Then you've also got the internal business processes to encourage the identification of measures that answer the question, what must we excel at? You know, cycle times, production times, service times. And also there's an area for organisational capacity or learning and growth, encouraging the identification of measures that answer the question, how can we continue to improve, create value and innovation? So within the balanced scorecard, each person is encouraged to examine their own role and responsibilities and devise indicators and measures of their own performance based on those 4 key capacities. Okay, they have to relate directly to the team and department targets. So if the organisation's target is to generate X amount of sales, then your personal balanced scorecard target will be your contribution, the element you contribute to that target. These indicators are used to measure your performance. And the great thing about these is, once you've constructed a balanced scorecard, or basically a group of your key performance indicators, then you've got a way of self-evaluating your own performance. And that's going to help with question 7 in your written and oral. Let's just talk quickly about key performance indicators. Okay? A key performance indicator is defined as a set of values against which you measure performance of individuals, teams and departments. So simplest key performance indicator is, I expect you to turn up at work on time. Okay? If you fail to arrive at work on time each day and you're late, you're failing to achieve a key performance indicator. Okay? I may have a key performance indicator that requires you to work in a safe manner 100% of the time. The measurement being, of course, there'll be no accidents. Okay? Those are literally our key performance indicators. A school might consider the failure rate of its students as a key performance indicator, which might help the school understand its position in the educational system. A business might consider the percentage of income for returning customers as a potential KPI. Now, activity 3 asks you to make up 5 KPIs to measure personal performance. And question 5 in the question and answers asks you to explain what KPIs are. So let's be clear. A key performance indicator, which is a measurement of performance, needs to be time-based. It can be about quality or quantity, okay, volume or quality. So it could be about error rates, customer satisfaction, doing a job to a certain specification, or just revenue related. Maybe it's a percentage of sales, Maybe it's the number of sales that the business does in a day. But if you are creating key performance indicators, you will also need to consider SMART goals. Now, we've come across SMART goals a few times during this diploma, so let's just take them on board. A SMART goal is an anagram for specific, measurable, agreed, realistic, time-bound. So any KPI that you create or you work with your supervisor to create needs to be specific, measurable, agreed, realistic and time-bound. By that we mean the goal has to be specific in terms of about a specific area of performance. So generally you won't average 1 KPI in your job role. You might have 2, 3 or 4 key KPIs. One may about your timekeeper, one about your accident rate, one about the specifications for the benchmarking of your work. They need to be measurable. Okay, if you're going to have a KPI or a performance indicator, somebody, including you, needs to be able to measure your performance. So it has to be created in a way that you can measure it. We say agreed because we need to know who is going to do what to achieve this objective goal. And it needs to be realistic, of course. There's no sense to your supervisor sitting down with you and setting goals for you, or you setting goals for employees, which are beyond their reach and capacity and ability to perform. Okay? So it's really important that you review any KPIs being set and agree on them and make sure they're realistically. More important at all, the most important thing is these are time related. So they have to be specifically within a space of time. KPI is not something that just goes on forever. It relates to a specific period of time. It would be a week, a month, a year, 10 minutes, an hour. It has to be specific in its time. When you're looking at your managing or establishing personal goals, one of the key facets we talk about is your ability to manage your own time, which is seen as being a key skill whether you're a manager or an employee. Now, unfortunately, both socially and in business, we have activities and events that can literally steal our time. One of the exercises you undertake as part of this diploma activity is to complete a quiz talking about different time stealers, things that still literally take you away from what you should be doing. Okay, and we'll ask you to identify in question 1, 3 strategies you can use to manage your time. So here's some thoughts, okay? Yeah, one strategy to manage time is set smart goals. You know, one strategy is to create to-do lists in order of importance in order to work through it. Prioritizing tasks. Okay, make sure that when you're setting out jobs for yourself, you go to the margin. You know, don't just say it's going to take 10 minutes. The job can take 10 minutes. I'll have a few more minutes on that just in case. The opportunity to delegate where possible jobs you don't need to be doing. The biggie, learning to say no. Literally blocking out time in your diary for important jobs. Considering your biological prime time, the time of the day when you work your best. Don't try and do technical work after lunch, just when you feel most dozy. There's this thing about being avoiding the imperfectionist. You know, some people who are seen procrastinators aren't so much procrastinators as people who just want to get things right and don't think they can move forward until they've got it right. Okay? Fixing definite times when you won't be disturbed, planning your telephone calls, managing paperwork, using good processes, working with a clear desk. Ooh, I don't do that, but hey, each to his own. These are all strategies for dealing with time wasting in the workplace. You know, and what can you do to deal with time bandits? Think about some of the time stealers and strategies you can use to manage these in a positive way. You can redirect your phone to a voicemail, have a don't disturb sign, turn off email alerts. A lot of people just sit there with emails all day long checking them. Now, I check my emails every 3 hours. That way I'm not spending the whole day just looking at emails. You know, when you've got meetings, make sure there's an agenda and a time frame. We've already said this before. Think about prioritizing and using realistic time frames in terms of the work you're going to do. Do the important task first. Plan. Communicate. Have clear goals and instructions. And obviously using calendars. You're noticing how much of this work is time-based. It's about time management. Now, activity 3, I said you fill out the questionnaire, you look at the time bandits, and then you think about some ways you can manage those time bandits. And the last 2 slides should help you a lot with those questions. Now, we've already touched on procrastination. Never do today what you can put off till tomorrow or the day after. That's the mantra for procrastinators. But why do we procrastinate? Well, the simple truth is, a lot of the time we do it because we don't want the job's either too hard or unpleasant. You know, cleaning the toilet bowl is not a job you look forward to, so you put it off. It may be too difficult in terms you don't know how to do it. You've not been trained to do this job, so therefore you're not competent to do the job, therefore you put off doing it. Maybe you just don't know how to get started. That's often the case. The people, you know, they want to do the thing, but they don't know where the starting point is. Again, it's not being clearly communicated to them. They're not too sure what to do. And there's the other present fear of failure. You know, if you don't do it, you can't fail. If you're looking for ways to prevent procrastination, and this is a good answer for activity 4, look at using your time management skills that we talked about in the previous slides. Think about the idea of making the task a priority, doing it first. Maybe give yourself a reward for doing the job, a small reward. I'll have a coffee break, or I'll have a Mars bar, something to reward yourself for making an effort to do that particular job. Or maybe break into smaller parts. If it's a big job and it seems overwhelming, sometimes when we break down to smaller parts, it seems less challenging or less of a problem. There's a guy called Brian Tracy who wrote a book about this. It's called Swallow the Frog. And the idea was if you woke up every morning and there was this big green frog sat on the end of your bed, and basically you had to eat the frog or swallow the frog whole at some point during the day. Either else swallow the frog in the morning straight away, so you've got those days to enjoy yourself, or spend all day staring at that green frog, saying to yourself, oh, I'll do it next, I'll do it soon, I'll do it soon, and literally letting the frog ruin your day. Well, the answer, obviously, is you've got to get yourself in the habit of swallowing the frog so you can enjoy the rest of your day. The 80-20 principle is about focusing on 20% activities that produce 80% of the results. It's called the Pareto principle, but most people call it the 80-20 rule, the law of the vital few. It states that for many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the cause. And if you look at anything you're doing, you'll generally find 20% of the sales results come from, or 80% of the sales results come from 20% of salespeople. 80% of your sales come from 20% of your clients. 80% of the company's complaints come from 20% of the customers. 80% of the customer's profits come from 20% of the time its staff spends. 80% of the company's sales come from 20% of its products. 80% of the company's sales are made by 20% of its sales staff. The principle can be applied in all kinds of many ways, and it tends to be true. And this is something to consider when you're looking at your own goals and creating your own work, is recognizing this fact that 20% of your efforts will create 80% of the results. Why is that? Well, because when you think about it, you spend a lot of your time in one of these 4 quadrants. Okay? You need to be either doing something right away, getting it done. You need to be planning to do it as soon as possible. If possible, you want to delegate things away and get somebody else to do it. But if you find yourself with something you want to dump or postpone, then it's not important. Okay? So when thinking about prioritizing your work, then think it in terms of doing it, planning it, delegating it, or dumping it. Nice, easy 4-step strategy. Look at each of the things on the to-do list, and you're either going to do it, you're going to plan to do it as soon as possible, you're going to delegate to somebody else, or get rid. We can't ignore the role of technology in our planning, our work priorities. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where technology contributes a great deal these days to our workforce. We use computers, we've got phones, we've got PDAs, we've got these smartphone things, our iPhones and our Samsungs, we've got apps. I mean, my life is ruled by apps. I've got hundreds of apps on my phone. All these things contribute to making our work life more effective. You have travel around the world these days. You can have video conferencing, you can have FaceTime, you can use Skype. There's all kinds of technology that contributes to making you work more effectively. And it's great. Technology can save time. You can synchronize your work with those computers. You can share things. You need less space. It's portable, instantaneous. It speeds up your workflow. We can think of loads of good reasons why technology has a place in our working and business lives. But the problem, of course, is there's also some downsides. Technology can be costly. Sometimes it's difficult to use and understand. The older you get, the harder technology seems to be to take on board. There's some costs of training people. Unless you train people to use this technology, then it's a waste of time. There's the cost of the IT support for that. We're all aware of hacking and viruses, which are going to affect your computer or your software's performance. So there's, it comes down to this simple, isn't it? When it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't. And sometimes with technology, you can have problems good at working, and then you'll need contingency plans in place to support. You know, what do you do when your computer breaks down? Well, hopefully you've got a backup. You know, you've got a backup service somewhere, or a backup of the data. Do you have a paperwork system in place for when your tills break down at work? You have to think about these things in terms of, you know, this technology is wonderful, but in the worst case scenario they're not working. What do you do? And this should help you answer your answers with Tech 2 Activity 5. So in summary, what we've gone through in the past 20 or so minutes has been looking at the idea of the impact of positive role models in your work and social life, the characteristics of a leader, of these role models, and how they impact on you. And of course, let's keep in mind, when we talk about positive role models, we're not just talking about the people who want you to look up to, we're also saying that you want to be in the workplace a positive role model yourself. We've talked about personal work priorities that reflect the organisation's plans, where the company wants to go, the direction it's going in, and how to align your work priorities with the company's work priorities. Okay, we've talked about how you measure your personal work performance through key performance indicators and using SMART goals. We've also talked about the need to be time managed. Establishing effectively creating your goals requires you to be time managed. Be aware what time stealers are, why we procrastinate, and how to manage time stealers. And of course, we've talked about finally technology and how that impacts on our ability to achieve goals in the workplace. Now, this should effectively help you to answer all the questions that you've got in your first section of learning for this unit, BSBWOR501B. By all means, download and watch this again. At the same time, of course, the reading material you've got online will also support this. If you have any more questions, contact myself or your trainers, and we'll be more than happy to help you. Okay, so thanks for today, and look forward to seeing you next time.